The dark hellos of dowry system. Lala Rukh had several suitors in her hometown, where arranged marriages are common. But the marriage proposals fell through because the families of the potential grooms demanded a hefty dowry that the parents could not afford. People often come to ask for my hand in marriage, but they do not come back after they realize that my poor family cannot pay a huge dowry, says a very beautiful and a skilled craftswoman, Lala Rukh. Even this doomed dowry is very difficult to define, yet explain. It is a centuries-old practice where the bride's parents presents gifts of cash, clothes, and jewelry to the groom's family. Also, in some cultures where women are not entitled to any inheritance or property rights, historically, the dowry's purpose was to provide the bride with financial security should anything happen to her husband. However, in recent decades, it has transformed into an economic transaction between the two sets of parents and often becomes a prize for the groom. Shamelessly, the groom's family often presents a list of items to the bride's to-be family. It can include jewelry, furniture, electrical appliances, and sometimes even a new car. Gone are the days when the bride was sent with some clothes, shoes, and kitchenware in order to start a new life. Here, there's a totally new concept for looking for a potential girl whose family is capable of settling the otherwise incapable apple of the eye in some budding business. So marriage is not important here, but dowry is. So hilariously, if a family can give lavish gifts, then who needs the bride? So when did this practice actually commence and what was the real story behind it? Originally, dowries were paid to the bride or the bride's family, not the other way round. The original purpose of a dowry was to compensate the bride's family for the loss of her labor and her reproductive potential. Somewhere before the start of the ancient Roman and Greek periods, the custom became reversed so that the bride's family had to give a dowry to the husband's kin. Still, in yesteryear, the practice was simple and heartfelt. A bride's dowry consisted of a lot of clothing, very often crafted by the bride herself or by her family. Every button, every tassel, and every belt and apron were testimonies of the bride's skill in the crafts of sewing, weaving, embroidery, etc. Clothing, bedding, rugs, and wall decorations were also very important items for a newlywed couple to furnish their home with. The custom of crafting and giving dowries has held strong throughout the centuries. Crafting a dowry was often an activity that all women in a family grew partook in, starting from when a girl was born in anticipation of her wedding. Young girls learned to weave at a very young age, as well as stitching and embroidery, enabling them to start work on the dowry in their teen years. Women used the handcrafted items of the dowries as canvases to weave their aspirations, wishes, and personal tastes into the fabrics that would furnish their future homes. This created long-lasting memories for the bride of her parents' place and the education and skills she got from the generations of womanhood. Over time, it became common practice for families to exploit the dowry system all over the world in some cases. What was meant to be a gift and a promise of security from one partner to another soon became a financial demand that resulted in broken engagements or divorce, violence, and even death for unpaid dowries. So where this malicious practice could be actually found currently? Dowry is a common tradition, particularly in South Asian countries. It originated from the Hindu culture, but was later adopted and practiced by other Islamic and European American nations. Most of the world's highest dowry-related violence and deaths are reported in Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh. Ironically, countries like India, Pakistan, Nepal, Greece, and Kenya passed laws making dowries illegal in any capacity. But the laws are meant to be broken, right? Not only that, but in first world countries like Canada and Australia, many South Asian practice dowry exchange without any hesitation. In September 2021, New Yorker reported story about a 40-year-old mother of two, Neeti Pawan. At first, her parents were informed by her husband that she died of a heart attack. However, Neeti's daughter aroused suspicion when she said that her mother was never taken to the hospital by her father and her paternal grandparents. And also, Neeti was a hardcore fitness freak, so it was quite unbelievable for her brother Sumit and father, so they requested an autopsy. The results came on September 25, and they indicated several internal wounds and lacerations, along with many ribs broken. In short, Neeti was strangled. Her father revealed that the month before her death, Neeti came crying to him that the in-laws were demanding things and cash and could do anything to her. This happens because in giant countries like the US, there are no laws against the perils of dowry, because Westerners have long ago given up on the burdensome practice and believe in equal contribution from both the potential bride and groom to set up the new life without pressurizing their respective families. So, what kind of evil does this taboo spread in society? Women are abused and killed. Thousands of women sacrifice themselves and the future just to live up to this peril of society. Sometimes a woman is murdered by her husband or in-laws when her family can't raise the requested dowry gift. Other times, women commit suicide after facing harassment and abuse for failing to meet the dowry price. Even if their lives are not taken, women who can't pay an expected dowry price or who are unable to make additional payments in the future are often subject to harassment and abuse. Other times, husbands or in-laws throw acid on a woman or set her on fire. The violence ranges from brutal beatings, emotional torture, withholding money, throwing them out of the house, keeping them away from the children, keeping mistresses openly, or in extreme cases, burning the wife alive. Savra Subratakan, a women's rights worker in New Delhi, told the Pulitzer Center, "What a mockery of marriage. The bride of yesterday lies today dead on the floor, or soon to be dragged either to the kitchen where her clothes catch fire, or to be taken to the bathroom where she puts kerosene on her clothes and sets them on fire, or to be thrown down from the roof of the house." Dowry practices enhances mental health issues in young women. Imagine being fed from the very beginning that you are not pretty enough or skilled enough, and that your parents have to pay a price for that. Young women and girls are stripped of self-confidence and self-reliance from a very young age. Many girls remain unmarried because their families couldn't share the listed items of the dowry demanded by the groom's family. This creates stress and a feeling of worthlessness among young lasses who could be beyond their existence otherwise. They develop a fear that would remain spinsters throughout their lives. The overall pressure could make them irritable, frustrated, disgusted, and pessimistic. They may even develop neurotic diseases and get involved in an emotional problem. The already 30 years old Saida is sick of hearing stark remarks from her surroundings. "You have grey streaks in your hair. Now who is going to marry you? Maybe a widow or a divorcee? And what kind of parents just think of themselves and not for their rapidly aging daughter, etc." Now her father is a mid-class government officer with a meager pay, barely enough to meet the ends of his family of 6. Even if the parents are educated enough to educate their girls to make them independent, the societal pressures would always cause a hurdle and make their shoulders droop with burden when they hear comments like "shameless man consuming" and living on his daughter's salary. But woes don't end here. Even after the so-called marital bliss, a woman is always harassed, if not physically, then mentally. What did you bring with yourself from your parents' house? Or the endless comparison. See, Saima brought 10 gold sets, and look what your father gave you, only 3, and even those are lightweight. You can only save your face by the heavy sets that's given to us. These are the taunts that the in-laws usually throw on the bride. Some shameless people go beyond, torturing their daughter-in-law by demanding money for settling the son's newly found business. Hello? That useless piece of human is your responsibility, not theirs. The mindset of a girl's parents is paved in such a way that even if they have accumulated money at their end, instead of spending it on their higher education by sending her to the top institutions, they would rather start considering which model of refrigerator should be given or which brand of TV should be suitable for her room. Since the day a girl child is born, the parents start saving up for her oh so respectable dowry. So what must be done to remove this abominable peril from the society? The first and most important solution is to spread awareness, especially among youngsters. The girls must be educated and encouraged to have a career rather than be dependent on the male members of the family forever. They must be taught that although marriage is important, it must not be a source of a trading system but a beautiful relationship between two souls. Not only that, the girls must be taught to raise their voices when mistreated because sometimes silence isn't gold and could lead to a lifetime of misery and even death. Secondly, it is up to the boy as well that he must take a stand and be a man enough to take responsibility for the woman he is about to marry and declare a strict no to this malpractice. Also, he must stop his parents and other relatives from harassing his wife about dowry issues. The government needs to make the already existing dowry-related laws to be followed strictly. They must place secret informants everywhere around the country who could report any suspicious activity taking place in a household. This could be a little tedious because a network of such informants would need to be formed. But then, when some culprits would be harshly punished, the malpractice could be greatly reduced. Lastly, people from remote areas and villages must be enlightened and educated about the cons of the dowry system. The aftermath is that even though there are so-called laws against the dowry practice in India, Pakistan and Bangladesh, this doomed practice is deep-rooted into people's minds since centuries. The irony of the situation is that many people remain silent on the dowry, where the sons are getting married, but they are against and show their displeasure against the dowry when it comes to the case of their own daughters to marry. This is where the bud should be nipped, and the groom's side should be humble enough to bluntly refuse anything from the bride's side, claiming the son's efficiency and potential to provide everything the bride would ever need. Finally, the prospective brides could also talk to their parents and husbands for the successful eradication of this malpractice. After all, someone has to break the chain over here.